Yeah, so Belichick is head to UNC. Not going to take the bait on that. But do you
Yeah,
think
go
that
ahead.
there's any case where this turns out to be a good move?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that if he gets North Carolina to the college football playoff, it greatly enhances his legacy, and I think that's on the board. The, I mean, SMU this year, two teams from the ACC made the college football playoff in Clemson and SMU. And so college football's changed now where it's no longer like championship or bust. It's really, or BCS bowl or bust. It's like, hey, can I make the 12 team playoff? Like Colorado had an awesome year, but had they made the playoff, it would have felt like they won a championship. That would have been their championship, really. And so I think Belichick probably looked at what Prime did at Colorado and was like, that was the worst team in college football. The worst. And he got them playoff adjacent in 2 years. North Carolina won 6 games this year. They had the number 3 pick of the draft year. Like they had Drake May went there. Like so they're not a blue blood football program like they're a basketball program, but they're not the dregs. They're not Rutgers when Shiano took over. So I don't think it's a guaranteed disaster. I do think this Seth Wickersham article, and Seth is great, that involves massive spin zone from Belichick's people is ludicrous. So people should check out Seth Wickersham's article where he quotes a source close to Bill Belichick, who, again, this is rude of me, but I don't really care. And I used to actually do a podcast with this guy ages ago. But I would bet any amount of money that source close to Bill Belichick is Michael Lombardi, who's never met a microphone he doesn't like and is now going to be Belichick's GM at North Carolina. The source close said that Bill is, quote, disgusted with what the NFL had become, and this is a big FU to the NFL. Okay. Now, we have to be honest and fair about what actually transpired here. And what transpired here is Belichick, after being left out in the cold for a hiring cycle, appears to have done the old high school, maybe even junior high move, which is, hey, did you hear? Sarah's going to break up with you at lunch. And then you go find her in third period. You're like, I break up with you. Oh, no. I'm going to do it like like, you didn't break up with me. I broke up with you. It's like, no, but I was going to, no, I broke up with you. I'm dumping you. I'm leaving. I don't like you. I think Bill Belichick had on pretty good authority the NFL was going to pass on him again. And by the way, I think that's a mistake. I think there are teams out there that would have done well to hire Bill Belichick. I don't think that I don't think if I were the Bears, I wouldn't hire Belichick because I want a coach who can grow with Caleb for a decade. So it's not a perfect fit everywhere. But if I were the Cowboys, I'd hire Belichick. A team that's already built, has the quarterback in place. I think it's a mistake that no team wanted him. But I think it's very clear no team wanted him. And if any team wanted him, they only wanted him just as the coach. And no matter what Bill said in those Falcons interviews, he clearly is prioritizing being the czar of everything. And at North Carolina, he's going to get to. And he's just getting the band back together. He's bringing Mike Lombardi back. I assume Josh McDaniels could be involved. And he is going to be the grand poobah of all things football. And that's what's going to happen here. And so it is a stunning and shocking turn of events in that last year we were discussing, DeMonze, should the Eagles fire Sirianni just to be able to hire Belichick? And the Eagles were discussing that. Ownership was discussing that. And we talked about if the Bills collapsed, should they fire Sean McDermott in order to hire Bill Belichick? And now he is taking the North Carolina job in order to, I think, make sure he has a landing spot. One other piece on this before we get to the blackballing stuff. I know they just erased it, but I actually do want you to ask me about that. But before we get to that, the idea that, Belichick always wanted to go back to college, folks. If he always wanted to go back to college, Alabama was open a year ago. His good friend Nick Saban was leaving. They didn't have a succession in place. That's why they went and got Kalen DeBoer. The idea that he wouldn't have just decided, okay, I'm going to go to college and I'll just take over for my buddy Nick Saban, I think that's foolishness. But go ahead and ask me about the blackballing's too strong, but about that, and we'll get into it.
You said that the NFL might consider not giving Belichick a job again. But like, there's going to be teams like the Giants, the Raiders, obviously owned by Tom Brady. Why do you think that he would not be able to get a job again?
So I think that I really do wonder how much poison was spit in other owners' ears by Robert Kraft. And I think that really damaged Bill. We know that Bill interviewed for one job last year, the Falcons job. And it would appear from the reporting I've read that Robert Kraft kind of went out of his way to screw him on that. That Robert Kraft twice talked to, what's the Falcons owner's name? Dude who owns Home Depot. Arthur Blank. Twice talked to Arthur Blank and did not give rave reviews. Sidebar, shout out Arthur Blank origin story. When Home Depot was first opening, in order to get customers, Arthur Blank stood in the parking lot with tons and tons of $1 bills and would tell people, I'll give you $1 if you just walk in my store just to see what it's like. I like those stories. That guy's like, I got a good product. I gotta get asses in the door.
Yeah,
I'll just give you money. I always, in my brain, I separate owners into two groups: built a business, got rich, and inherited team from dad. And I always assume like different levels of sophistication based on that. So like Robert Kraft built a business, good for him. And again, the guys who inherited team from dad, they might be sharp as well, but I don't assume it. Shad Khan's origin story is one of my favorites. Shad Khan worked for the company. Shad Khan worked for a company that made bumpers, like things on your car, and went to the boss, was like, hey, better way to do this. I figured it out on my own time. And the boss was like, shut up, get back to work. So he quit, started his own bumper company with his own idea, and now he makes all the bumpers. Like if you have like a Toyota or Honda or something, Shad Khan does it. So I'm like, oh, that's super cool. So like, all right, now back to, sorry, that was a sidebar. I just find it interesting. So I do wonder how much Kraft hurt Belichick in this. Because Kraft clearly, we know from that Patriots doc, angry with Bill. Kraft thinks pretty clearly that on the Patriot Dynasty movie poster, Tom Brady is the first name listed, but the second is his and not Bill's. That Robert Kraft, and I don't buy that at all. And so Bill was going to, it would appear, get shut out of this coaching search. So why the Giants thing, I think he's nervous that the Giants might not be making a head coaching change. And if they do, that is, pardon me, full-on rebuild. Like from the studs. The Raiders thing, I I don't know that he was confident Tom would say, let's hire him. Or maybe it was that he didn't want to work for Tom, or maybe I don't know. I don't know there. That's an odd dynamic that I don't really even want to speculate on. Also,
Definitely don't want to
it
get
should be
denied
noted.
there. That would stink.
Right, that'd be brutal. That would
Yeah.
be brutal. And again, I don't know their relationship, but if it's at all in question, could you imagine, like, you were this guy's, if you're Belichick, you were Brady's boss for 20 years, and then he gets to interview you and kind of rake you over the coals and then be like, denied. Like, no, I mean, that doesn't sound pleasant. And so, and also, by the way, it should be noted, Tom owns 5% of the Raiders. So maybe the Raiders are like, hey, give us all the input you have. And maybe the Raiders are like, okay, we'll take your suggestion. But he obviously doesn't have full control unless they just want him to have it. So it might just be Al Davis's kid, Mark Davis, who's making that decision. And by the way, maybe the Raiders are going to keep Antonio Pierce. Like, I'm pre-firing Antonio Pierce in my head, but he could keep the job. So Bill clearly didn't think he was getting a job. And I think that's really, really fascinating. All right, let's go to some of these follow-ups, Demonze.
So you were saying that Andy Reid comes out a winner in all this? How so? Is he just running himself into the ground?
No, I mean, Andy Reid's going to end up with the wins record. So the wins record right now, Shula's at 347. Belichick's at 333 and never moving past that. Like, that's locked. That's done. Andy's at 296. And that's playoffs and regular season combined. So he'll be at around 300
by the end
at
of the
the
season.
end of this year. Is he going to coach at least 3 more years? Well, he just signed a 5-year, $100 million new deal. He averages 15 combined wins a year since Mahomes has been there. So he'll run Belichick down in a little over, maybe just 2 years or a little over 2 years, and he could run Shula down in a little over 3 years. And when we're talking greatest coach of all time, Shula currently has 2 things really in his favor. More wins, undefeated season. Andy, I think, is going to have in his favor the most wins ever and first ever three-peat, right? Belichick's going to have in his favor the 6 rings, which could be tough for Andy to catch, but Andy after this year might be at 4 with a three-peat. And it's just, the point that I was trying to make on TV was this. I think that right now, if you were to ask Family Feud style 100 NFL fans, who's the greatest NFL coach ever, I think Bill Belichick gets more than 90 of the votes. I think it's almost a unanimously held opinion. But if Andy runs him down and wins, and or pulls off the three-peat, and then you do have the dichotomy of Bill, 11 seasons without Tom Brady, 8 losing seasons. Andy, I think it's 15 seasons, no, way more than that, 16, 17 seasons without Patrick, 3 losing seasons, a Super Bowl appearance, had a double-digit win season, won a division with 4 different quarterbacks. It starts to at least become a discussion. So that's the Andy Reid piece of it.
So,
all right, let's keep going with these other. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you had said something about Belichick having the potential to have that Deion Colorado type of effect on the team.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously Belichick is much cooler. He came in with his kids. I don't think he's.
Oh, Deion's.
You think he's gonna?
Yeah.
Deion's much good. Do you think Belichick is going to be as attractive as an attractive pool to like other 17-year-olds?
So not in the same way. And again, it might not work at all. But I do think that I don't want to close the door to the possibility that a very certain personality type of young person, especially someone that is laser focused on making the NFL, might find Belichick super attractive. And I think that's what they're going to sell. I think what they're going to sell is we are going to prepare you for professional football. Now, hard-nosed coaching, it's very, very tough to swallow if you can't also sell, and at the end of the year we get to have a parade. We win the, so like in New England, everyone knew it was going to be hard. Everyone knew it wasn't a ton of fun, but they did the most winning. Saban at Alabama, everyone knew it was going to be hard. Everyone knew that he was a, kind of a pain in the ass, but they did the most winning. If UNC is 7-5, that's a tougher sell. Now, you might say Deion was able to sustain, not a great first year at Colorado at all. I think people look at Colorado as this is going to be insanely fun. We're you know what I mean? We're having a party. We're celebrities. We're also working hard. And here's the other thing, and I have massive respect for what Deion's done. But what supercharged the Colorado rebuild was that Deion's son is the best quarterback in college football, and that Travis Hunter came with him, the best player in college football. Like, Belichick's son is going to be a coordinator on the team, not playing quarterback. So that is like Colorado. I believe in what Deion's done, and I undersold what they were going to be able to do this year, but it would have been a much more gradual build if Shador wasn't this superstar player. All right. This next question's an interesting one.
Yeah, do three-peats matter in overall greatness? In the
These
overall
guys
greatness
they're
conversations?
just trying to make this a Michael Jordan LeBron thing is the reason they put that in. But there is doing something no one's ever done in the history of the sport matters.
Yeah.
So, like, nobody's ever done a three-peat in the NFL, and I'm not taking the bait to have a Jordan-LeBron debate here. I am interested in the question above that, DeMonze, in the rundown that they just highlighted. That one I think is fascinating.
Any chance Belichick could pull a Jets resignation 2.0 move if the Giants offered him a job?
I mean, that would be so unbelievable. I can't put it at 0, but I will put it at very, very close to 0. So you're not familiar with what they're referencing. So here was Bill Belichick's coaching history, because if you go to Bill Belichick's Wikipedia page, I think it will have listed head coach of the New York Jets. But you'll be like, wait, he was? And the answer is not really. So Bill Belichick was with Bill Parcells with the Giants, won a couple Super Bowls, designed a game plan that shut down one of the greatest offenses ever, the Buffalo Bills, and then in the Super Bowl, and then went on to be the Browns head coach, okay? After he left the Browns to be the head coach, he got back with Parcells in New England, which is where Parcells was for 1 year. Parcells then left New England to be the head coach of the Jets, okay? Parcells then resigns from the Jets. They name Bill Belichick the head coach. And Belichick, when he's on his way into the introductory press conference for him to be the head coach of the Jets, writes down on a napkin, I, Bill Belichick, hereby resign as head coach of the New York Jets. And at the introductory press conference says, I'm actually quitting and winning to New England to become their head coach, their rival. That's how it happened. So
Wow.
that it's one of the most unbelievable videos you'll ever see. Him at the press conference and the reporter's like, what? And so because that's in the repertoire, and keep in mind, when he did that, DeMonze, he was not this legend Bill Belichick.
That's what I
He
was
had been
about
a
to say. For him to
one-time
do that
fired head coach, and
to
he
go on
just
to that's
believed he could
legendary.
do it. It's legendary. And then he went to their rival, New England, and then a year and a few games into his tenure there, Drew Bledsoe gets hurt, Tom Brady comes in, and the rest is NFL history. But now, now he's going to run the
All
show at
right.
North Carolina.
Hornets.
All right, I think that covers all the Belichick stuff. We'll talk more about it with Mangini on the show today. Mangini and I honestly should feel a little snubbed because 8 years ago there was a little listened to 3-person podcast called the Make Me Smarter NFL Podcast, and it was me, Eric Mangini, and Michael Lombardi. And Michael Lombardi now gets to be the GM of North Carolina football, and Eric and I don't as much get a phone call. I can't be your NIL cap expert. You don't call Eric to see if he wants to run the defense? I mean, kind of shitty if you ask me, but whatever. Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.